Hello and welcome everyone to the third video of performance testing. Performance testing is not only about breaking the system with load, it's about measuring the right metrics. In this video, we will learn about the three most important metrics, which is response time, throughput, and latency, which is required by a tester, developer, as well as DevOps in the entire journey of performance testing. Remember, this three these three topics or these three matrix is going to be the baseline of our measuring the performance and understanding the load of a system. So let's not waste our time, let's move ahead in the video. As you can see, performance metrics are the measurable value that help us evaluate how well an application behave under different condition. So it's a very typical classic definition. It says that it's just a measurable value. It has a number which help us to understand the behavior of an application. Okay, all the three metrics we will cover today. We are going to cover response time, we are going to cover throughput, and we are going to cover latency. Okay, and as well as major tools like JMeter, K6, LoadRunner. All of these tools, they measure these three metrics very correctly and very importantly. So let's move ahead and let's understand the first topic, which is the response time. So let me just make you clear that response time and request latency, these two are different topic. Here we are going to talk about response. First, let's talk about response time and request latency. Okay, these two topic we will talk about. So ideally it is often confused because these two are very similar, but it has a very thin difference which everyone need to understand. Let's forget everything. Let's first understand response time. So response time, it's simple, the time taken by a request being sent and the first byte received. Let's break it down with the help of a diagram. So for example, this is your front end. Okay, this is your front end, and you have your server or you have your API. Okay, this is your API. So what API will do, and what we are going to do, first of all, we are going to measure the performance of this API. Okay, we are going to do the performance testing of this particular API, and let's say the API does some calculations and it gives us certain result. So how this entire flow works, the front end will send you a request to the API. Okay, so for example, you have a login form. In login form you have a field called username, password. Okay, password. Okay, and what front end will do, front end will capture this value username and password from the user, and what it will do, it will send the username plus password to our API. And now what API does, API will check in the database that if this username exists. If this username exists, then it will check if the password is correct for this particular username, and it will do certain processing whatever is required, and it will give us a result which will say that yes, user exists. Okay, so this is a simple task, this is a very simple API. Okay, now what we are going to do, we are going to measure the response time. So when I say response time, what does it mean? It means the entire time taken by the data to flow from front end to the API. For example, for convenience, let's say this time taken was 10 milliseconds. Okay, so there are three parts of it. The first part is when the request is getting sent from front end to the API, it took 10 milliseconds. Now the next part, second part, the API will do certain processing, right? And that processing will also take some time. Processing means checking in the database username exists or not, verifying the password, and any other processing if required. This will also take some time. Let's say this took 25 millisecond, and now this API will return the data to front end again. Let's say the returning of data took just 7 milliseconds. So now what is response time? Response time is basically 10 plus 25 plus 7. So the time taken by a request to flow from front end to back end processing, then processing your request and then flowing back. So the entire time taken is called the response time. How much time the API can respond. So in our example, the response time comes out to be 35 plus 7, which is 42 millisecond. So this is going to be our response time. Okay, so you can see the definition: the time between a request being sent and the first byte received. So the request sent and the byte received. Example: when you hit a buy now button on Amazon and you get the confirmation, it's very simple. Just now we have understood with the help of a login page. You can understand with the real life analogy. For example, you go to a restaurant, okay, you are here, you order something, okay. So once you order, let's say you ordered at 7:30. So once you order, the waiter will come, waiter will take your order, go to the kitchen, prepare your order and bring back your order by 7:45. So here 15 minutes is your response time. Alright, so this is what response time is. Let's move ahead. Let's talk about request latency. So first of all, let me tell you, request latency is basically a subset of response time. Now when I say it's a subset of response time, what does it mean? It means that latency is part of a response time but not exactly the response time. Let's go to our previous example and understand it in a better way. So here you see we had three times. The first time was 10 millisecond, which was the time taken by the request to go from front end to the API. Then the 25 millisecond, which API took for the processing, and then 7 millisecond, the time taken from API to front end, right? Here request latency is basically this 10 milliseconds. This is our request latency. So the sum total 42 millisecond, this is our response time. This 10 millisecond, this is our request latency. So what is request latency? It is just the time which is taken by the request to reach from front end to back end. I hope you might have understood by now. So a very simple thing, you must have noticed that this time taken by for the request to go from front end to the back end, it all depends on the network speed, right? It depends on the network speed. It also depends on other factor, but network speed is the most important thing over here. Okay, all right. So you can see here definition: time delay before data begins to transfer, often confused with response time, but it's a subset. This is what we have discussed. Real life analogy, if we go to the restaurant example. So for example, you are here, okay, at 7:30 you came and you called a waiter that, okay, waiter, come and take my order and then go prepare and bring it back by 7:45. But the waiter comes, you call the waiter at 7:30, but the waiter comes at 7:32. So here your request latency is 2 minutes. Understood? So this is what request latency is. The difference should be very much clear because this is going to be the base of your entire performance testing. If you understand this difference, trust me, the entire journey is going to be very super simple. Okay, so latency is over. Let's go back. Let's move ahead on throughput. So throughput is very simple, not a big deal. Number of requests handled per second or per minute, you can say whatever your benchmark is. For example, Netflix or Paytm or Zomato. For example, let's talk about Hotstar. So if you are watching a cricket match on a Hotstar, you might have seen that 22 million people watching, or alright, or 10 million people watching, right? So what is happening over here? Our API is able to serve 10 million people at once in a minute. Alright, so this is what throughput is. Throughput basically refers to the amount of request which the API can serve in a second. Let's not talk about minute. Let's just talk about request per second. Okay. So in 1 second, how many requests can API serve? That is our throughput. Okay. So for example, you went to a restaurant. Okay. You went to a restaurant, and let's say just like you, there are 100 more people in the restaurant, and there's a kitchen inside, and there's a chef inside. So in 1 hour, in 1 hour, how many people can be feeded? That is our throughput. So for example, in 1 hour, the chef can prepare food for only 75 people, not 100 people. So here in this case, the 75 is the throughput. But alright, this was a restaurant, that's why we were taking an hour. But since we talk about seconds in API, so it should be always request per second. Okay. I hope this all three are clear. Let's just do a brief summary of what we have understood. We have understood response time, which is time to get first byte of response. We have understood latency, delay before a request starts processing. We have understood throughput, total process request per second. Okay. So alright, this was all for this video. I hope you have enjoyed the video. If you have liked the video, you can consider subscribing or liking, whatever you enjoy. Okay, in next video we will talk about the SLAs, which are important for performance testing, and then we will move ahead. Okay then, until then, bye bye, see you.